Technical writing for inspectors, Module 4, don't use the first person. Instructor, Gary A. Pace, PE, CWI, Katy, Texas, texasweldingengineering.com. We're going to just talk about why we don't use the first person narrative when we're writing reports. So we're just going to kind of give a little quick overview of, first person narrative, why we don't do that. That's our learning objective. So we really need to define, and I think I defined it in a previous slide, but we'll rehash it here, cover it again. What is the first person? The first person is when we're telling a story, and you're telling the story from his or her point of view, and you're using words like I. I went to the store, ran into my old girlfriend Susan, and she punched me in the head. That would be first person. Or our dog ran away and we had to track it down and we found our dog and it was happy and safe, etc. So that is first person. We don't do that in reports. First person is, a mode of storytelling which from your point of view. We don't use that. There are sometimes you can, but we try not to use it. And then if you're doing the first person, and this is from Wikipedia, it may be narrated by a first person protagonist, first person reteller, first person witness, or first person peripheral. But you're putting it in the terms of I, us, we, our, and it's just a way of storytelling. It works much better in storytelling and in other forms of literature rather than writing technical documents. You can do it, but we try not to. The first person point of view is considered informal, and we try not to do it in technical writing, just because it is informal. And because it is informal, it tends to weaken the credibility of the author's reasoning and logic, how the author has put that report together. So if it's just I, in my opinion, you're gonna lose people, and it's gonna have a lot weaker and a lot less credibility than if you wrote it in the third person. And if you write a report in the first person, a lot of times it's going to be interpreted as the writer's personal opinion, and it's not going to be looked at as if it was written by a person that didn't have a dog in that fight. It's not going to be interpreted as a fact-based document or report. So that's why we generally don't do first person when we're writing technical reports. So first and second person is, the first person is the use of I, me, we, etc. Second person is the use of you, your, etc. So we've got first person, second person, and the first and second person should not be used in formal writing, inspection reports, repair procedures, and other technical documents. Like I said, we generally try to avoid first and second person. So first person pronouns, as an inspector, we try not to use I, we, and words like this when we're writing reports. And the reason behind this is when we use these two pronouns, the person, from the perspective of the person reading the report, they think it's subjective. They don't think it's an objective report. They think it's a slanted report, and we want to have an objective viewpoint, not a subjective viewpoint. So that's why we generally avoid these pronouns. When writing a technical report documents, the inspector or person writing the report is trying to get the information to the reader in an objective fashion as possible. You don't want them to think that you have an agenda in that report. You are just reporting. This happened. The volcano exploded. Well, we don't want to put in there that we think that, an evil company or something caused that volcano to explode. We just volcano exploded. Now, I don't know if that's a good um, example or not, but we're going to run with it. So we want the information to the reader in an objective fashion as possible. That's what we're looking for. And once again, using the pronouns I and we tends to cloud the message. We don't want to do that. We just want to give them an objective viewpoint. The inspector saw this. It's not I saw this. The inspector saw this. Some examples of first person. I got to the job site at 9:30 a.m. and I inspected some welds. I then rejected the welds when the foreman told me that the welders used E6010 instead of E309L. And this is kind of a welding example for those of you who aren't welders. But you get the picture. I got to the job site. No, we're not doing that. We want to use, another slide, we'll get it cleaned up here. Or I told the foreman that the welds were not acceptable. Well, we could have written out a little better too. Examples of third person. The inspector arrived on the job at 9:30 a.m. Shortly after arrival, the inspector was shown to the welds that were in need of inspection. The inspector. It's not I. Nobody knows who you are when you're in the third person, but the inspector. So the inspector found this. That's telling him, the reader, who your credentials are, and it's taking you out of the equation as far as being subjective and puts you more in an objective viewpoint of a person writing the report. The inspector then inspected the required welds. The welds did not meet the inspection criteria of AWS D1.1. At this point, the inspector rejected the welds due to the welds being made with E6010 instead of E309L. The inspector informed the foreman that the welds were not acceptable and would have to be cut out and re-welded. So you can see how when we put that in the third person, and I doctored it up a little bit too, but you can see how when we put that in the third person, it looks a little better from the reader's point of view as far as it being an objective document and not a subjective document, something with an agenda. So that's what the inspector saw this, and this. So that's why we do third person, is because it allows us to say what we want to say, but we do it in an objective manner, a manner that doesn't bring a slant to the equation, to the report. Summary: why we don't use the first person narrative. Questions: Gary A. Pace, PE, CWI, Katy, Texas, TexasWeldingEngineering.com. Got any questions or comments? Contact me and I'll try and see what I can do to help you.